Okay, so we're continuing on in Tehilim, Psalms, Perek Bet. In chapter 1, David HaMelech gave us pretty much an introduction about life, about the good and the evil, the righteous and the wicked, the competition between the two. And it appears as though the wicked are on top. It appears that luck is with them. So David HaMelech warns us at the very beginning, don't be misled. Don't think like that. What you perceive is not accurate. There's a lot of make-believe in this world. As the rabbis tell us, this is Olam HaSheker. This world is a world of lies. Not the creation itself. The creation is pretty real. But there is a big Yetzer Hara. There is a very powerful evil inclination that misleads. That is his job. He was given this job by Hashem to convince people that you are here to enjoy yourself. You're not here to do God's will. Religion, according to the Satan, according to the Kohot Hara, to the evil forces, is a waste of time. And of course, you may hear other people express themselves in similar ways about religion, each one with their opinion and how they feel about it. And it's sad because how people feel is not what their neshama feels or what the neshama knows, what the soul knows. The soul knows the truth. And every human being has a spark of God in him, a divine spark that really deep down they know the truth. They feel it. But it's difficult to admit it. The Yetzer Hara is quite powerful. As we explained last week, it's in order to enable free will, there has to be a counterbalance. That was chapter 1. In chapter 2, David HaMelech goes on and takes it one step further. He tries to explain to us that wars don't make sense. On the surface, one may say, well, wars and conflicts, people, countries, nations, people, they want to, of course, have power. They want to take over. They want to have more money. They obviously have an agenda. They have some interest in why they want to pursue war. But war is nasty. There's a lot of death involved. It's cruel. Why would somebody really want to fight a war? Well, it could be easily looked as a reaction of the Yetzer Hara, which it is. And the Yetzer Hara meaning that I'm interested only in myself, even though it may come at the expense of somebody else's life. So we can definitely explain away everything using just Yetzer Hara. The evil inclination is responsible for a lot of the terrible things that go on in this world. But that's not enough. It's too general. David HaMelech in Perek Bet becomes more specific in explaining especially the war against Jews. Because war, okay, there's always war, there will always be war until Mashiach comes, for all kinds of reasons. You can read history and see why World War I began, why World War II began, and that's not so important because, unfortunately, that's the sad part about humanity, is that they don't know how to live in peace and harmony. Selfishness, call it what you want. But here David HaMelech wants us to focus more on something which is very unusual, and that is the war against the Jews. And that's something which is very difficult to understand, because it's not a regular war. So perhaps we'll go on by reading it and take it step by step as he goes through the Perek. It's a short Perek, short chapter, in explaining to us this very interesting idea of why the Jews are being persecuted. Not just war, but persecution. And he begins by asking a question. He doesn't make a statement. He actually begins by asking a question. Why do the nations become so excited to go to war against us? Why do they conspire? Why do they plot? What do they have against us? In the end, all their conspiracies and all that they intend to do is in vain, is for nothing, doesn't make sense. All of that means rik, makes no sense, and is in vain. In vain meaning it's a waste of time, and it also means it's nonsense. It's not true. So David HaMelech begins with a question because he's telling us that don't think that evil is just evil and minds its own business. Evil will not tolerate that which is good. If it sees anybody pursuing the opposite of what it considers the main pursuit in life, it will fight it. It will oppose it. So evil will not tolerate good. You want to be evil? Fine, be evil, but don't bother me. I want to be good. No, 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 no. Evil is not happy by just being evil and who he is. He doesn't like it if there's something that is not like him. He wants everybody to be evil. That's a very important idea. So evil will pursue that which is good. Okay, remember that. Very important idea. If evil, pure evil, sees something which is good, he won't tolerate it. He will go after it. And this is how it will be throughout history. And David HaMelech says, in various pesukim, various verses and chapters, that, he's involved in this battle. He's a nice guy. He wants to be good. He wants to behave himself. He wants to do what's right. And he have all sorts of evil forces, even from his own family. That's what's so sad. His own children going after him, giving him a hard time. Eventually we'll get to it. There's a lot going on in David HaMelech's life. But here he's beginning to describe it. That he himself has to go through this. This is how it will be throughout history, and this is how it will be right before Mashiach comes. We will see it live. This time we will see it really live on for those who see it on TV, on the internet. You will know about it right away. You will see evil confront good. But of course, when Mashiach comes at that time, it will be for the last time. Because after Mashiach comes, of course, evil will cease to be. So the question is, he begins with a question mark, why should it be like that? Why should the Goyim fight us? Lama ragishu Goyim? What do they have against us? What do they want from us? Ulehumim yahgurik, everything that they claim about the Jew is wrong. It's not true. They'll always blame it on us. Remember the bubonic plague or the black plague? When millions of people died in Europe? Oh, since by the Jews they weren't dying so much, they must have poisoned our wells. They actually accused Jews of poisoning the wells because by the Jews they weren't dying as many. So there must be they're to blame. What was the real reason? Jews are very hygienic. They're clean. There's netilat yadayim, washing your hands for several things during the day. So hygiene we know is important. In the end they figured it out where it came from. I think from rats or something like that. But they were easy to blame. Accuse the Jews for everything. They're the capitalists. They're the communists. They're socialists. Think of another description or another name, and you can use it against them. They're always to blame. They're the scapegoat. Just even recent history, World War II in Germany. It's the Jews' fault. So Leumim Yahgurik. First of all, one explanation of Yahgurik means that what they say is nonsense. What they say is not true, it's false. Yahgurik means, and what they will think and what they will do will also not succeed. In other words, it will all be in vain. Lo yazor lahem shum davar. What they're thinking of doing, what they're plotting against them. They will not succeed. How do we know they will not succeed? Today we can look back and pretty much say, you see, we're still around. All your plans, all your plots, all your conspiracies against the Jewish nation did not succeed. Now this chapter, we have a tradition, is said about Mashiach's time, and it relates to Gog Melech HaMagog. It relates to the last and final battle, where the Goyim will, one more time, attempt, as a large group of nations, to come against Yerushalayim, against the Jewish people. And, of course, they will not succeed. So what they're planning will not get them anywhere. even though what he's about to describe is all kinds of plots by the non-Jewish world against the Jewish people, he does not mean in this perek to imply that the Goyim are persecuting us because Hashem uses them as a tool. That's also true, that Hashem sometimes uses the non-Jew as a whip. As the Navi says, Hoy Ashur Shevet Api. Ashur, Assyria, was my whip. Yeah, that's true. That sometimes that's unfortunately the case, that the Goy will pursue the Jew and be the whip in the hand of God to punish the Jew. But that's not the main idea over here. The main idea that David HaMelech wants to reveal to us over here is what is the source of anti-Semitism? When they hate us for no reason. In other words, where there's no apparent reason. And the rabbis already tell us in the Midrash, you know where anti-Semitism began? In Har Sinai. B'Sinai yarda ha'olam. B'Sinai yarda sin'a la'olam. At Sinai, hatred came down because we're different. So what if we're different? Yeah, there are a lot of groups and cultures and cults and religions in the world, and they're not hated as much, even though it's true to some extent that minorities are always looked down at. That's psychological, but not with such anger and hatred. The Jew, wherever he went, he had trouble. So we want to know, where does this come from? This hatred. What do you have against us? And here David HaMelech is going to reveal to us a very, very important piece of information as to the reasons or what motivates the Goyim to pursue the Jews. Yityatzvu malchei eretz veroznim nosdu yachad. All the nations of the world, the kings, get together. And all the ministers conspire together, assemble together. What for? Al Hashem val Meshicho. They have a problem with God. They have a problem with religion, the Jewish religion. They have a problem with the Mashiach. In other words, if we're talking about the last generation of Mashiach, then this chapter is also dealing with that. That they will have a problem that the Jews have a king. They will have a problem that Mashiach has arrived in the very beginning. So the Goyim have a problem with Hashem and Meshicho. What's the problem? They're concerned about the Jewish faith because whenever they see a Jew observing his Torah mitzvot and not giving it up for no reason, it makes them upset because it basically reminds them that they're wrong. When they see the Jew is still around, and according to them, he's not supposed to be around, according to them, especially the way they interpret the Bible, he went against God, and therefore he's never going to return to Israel. How do they feel when the Jews are coming back to Israel? Do you know that the Vatican basically said that they are banished from Israel? God has abandoned them. Chas v'shalom. They will never return to Israel. What happened in 1948? What did they say? Well, they may return to Israel, but they'll never get Jerusalem. Well, what happened in 1967? I haven't heard what they say now. Can you understand now why their position is not to give in to Israel? Occupied territories. Why is this so? The world is burning today, especially in the Middle East. Look how many thousands of innocent lives are being lost in Syria. Look what's happening in Iraq. Every day they're killing each other. In Egypt. The whole Middle East. Iran, tremendous danger to the world. And it bothers them that little country is in the press, the headlines, much more than everybody else. For what? Oh, because they just started building another building in the occupied territories. If you look deeper into it, you will be reminded by what David HaMelech says. They have a problem with the Jewish people. Not necessarily with every action. This is done by the Jews. If this is done by somebody else, it's okay. You see what I mean? But if the Jew kills one Arab, hurts one Arab, oy vavoy. Now, obviously, no one should kill. We're not talking about the right or the wrong behind it. Right? We're just saying is that it's blown out of proportion. Why? Well, David HaMelech tells us it will be blown out of proportion because they don't like us. So don't ever think in your fantasies, in your wildest dreams, that you could make peace with the world. Forget about the Arabs. The Arabs actually, we can get along with them just fine. Do you know that? The rabbis even tell us, Tahat Ishmael velo Tahat Edom. I would rather live with the Muslim and not with the Christian. Because we suffered a lot more under Catholicism. Of course, today they're trying to back away from the past. But just read the news. All you need to do is read the news. What is going on in Europe in the 21st century? What kind of decrees they're decreeing today against the Jewish people and the Jewish religion. Just now, Poland says, no shechita. You're being too cruel to the animals by doing shechita. They don't understand that shechita is the most compassionate way. It really is the most compassionate way to slaughter an animal. Not to shoot it in the brain, to electrocute it, or to do whatever else they do. This is the most compassionate way. If they would analyze it scientifically, they would come to realize that, but they don't want to, they're not interested. Where does it come from? It comes from hatred against anything that is Jewish. And then, of course, you're going to have all the diplomats say, oh no, it's not hatred. They're really, really trying to become sophisticated, I don't know, modern, new outlook, more liberal, all kinds of nice adjectives. No, 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 this is just a bunch of nonsense. Yehurik. It's nonsense. The fact is, Al Hashem v'al Meshicho, they have a problem with God. And it's the Jewish God more than anything else. Because they, of course, they're religious. It is very obvious that as long as the Jews are still around, they're still alive, practicing Judaism. Oh no, I thought the Old Testament was old and we have the New. No, there's no such a thing. It's still there. God says He's not going to give us a new Torah. He says so. He wrote it so. This will always be the same. And you're telling us there's a New Testament? As long as the Jew continues with his beliefs, it bothers them. Because it serves to prove that they are wrong, that they are mistaken in their ways. They too cannot be right. Do you see what I mean? So as long as they're around and successful and prospering and coming back to their land like the prophet said they would, oh no, maybe we misunderstood. So this bothers them deep down, that the Jew cannot be converted. He resists, he gives his life for it. It bothers them. That's where the problem begins. So never think that this is just 15th century beliefs. This is still common now. Just that today they wear a suit and a tie and they comb their hair and they speak German and Italian instead of Latin. You know, it's the same thing. The same beliefs. It's the psychological makeup of human beings has not changed. Of course, there's some more tolerance, but that's just make-believe on the surface. They have to be tolerant because they're democracies. They're not run by the church. But that's just on the surface. Deep down, they still have their beliefs. Just till recently, look what Hitler did. But the greatest proof of this is Hitler himself. Because Hitler represents Amalek, which, as we said, is the epitome of evil. And what did he write in his book, Mein Kampf? 2 defects, 2 physical blemishes, or 2 mumim, as we would call it in Hebrew. Defects were introduced by Judaism to the world. In other words, according to him, Judaism introduced 2 defects, 2 blemishes. One in the physical body through the Brit Milah, the circumcision. A blemish, according to them, is a blemish. They cut away a piece. And the second one through the matzpun, the conscience, in the spirit. Right? So one is in the physical body, the Brit Milah, and one is in the conscience. One is spiritual, in the conscience. Who says there should be such a conscience? That's the way I believe. That's the way I feel. Who's to say this is right and this is wrong? Right? That's what conscience means. So it's the Jew who is to blame for having introduced these ideas into the world, and because of that people feel guilty, if they do certain things that are wrong. And what does he say? And I have come to liberate you from all of that. It's incredible. Mamash, what David HaMelech says, in David HaMelech's words, Nenateka et mosrotemo v'nashlicha mimena avotemo. Let's sever the cords. Let's cast away the ropes. In other words, the yoke of religion, of conscience, of right and wrong. No. You're a pure Aryan. You're smarter, you're better, right? All what they tell you is to be nice to people and to treat your neighbor or your friend as yourself. You know, all those beautiful things that the Bible has, that's of course Jewish, that the Jews introduced. I want to release you from that. I want to liberate you that. Cast away all those restrictions, all those limitations. Be free. Be who you want to be. Don't believe in a God. You see what I mean? That's exactly it. So, in many, many ways, he's not the only one. Evil, or those who sponsor evil, those who belong to evil, that's what they believe. They don't want to be tied down. They want to be atheists. And what does an atheist say? This is nonsense. This is, what are you holding me back from being who I want to be? I want to enjoy life the way I want to enjoy it. And unfortunately, you will hear it from lots of people. You would never believe it, that they're saying it. But that's the point here. That's what he's saying here. When you first read this word, you're reading Tehilim, the second chapter. People just go through it. Nenateka. What is nenateka? What's avotemu? You know, these are not even common words that are used in Hebrew today. But the message in this pasuk Gimel, is very powerful. It really says a lot. It says that people want chayef kirut. They want to live a life, a vain life, a life where nobody tells them what to do. They don't want any strings attached, right? Sever your cords, sever all the ropes, anything that holds you down. Let me do what I want to do. And that's exactly what Hitler wanted to do. Liberate, free humanity from all these kinds of beliefs. So now you can understand what Milchemet Gog uMagog will be all about. Why does Hashem have to have the mother of all wars, as it's called, the biggest battle of all, right before Mashiach comes? Who needs the war? Another war? We've had enough wars. You want to punish the Goyim? Just, do it in another way. What do you have to have a war for? The point of the war is that Hashem assembles them now in the same way that He did in the past. In other words, in the same way that they've come in the past, Hashem wants to prove to them, you see, the same ideas that you've had in the past, you still have them right now. I want to prove you that you're just like your grandparents. You're not any better. You're going to come for similar reasons, al Hashem val Mashiach, against the Jewish people, against their God, against Mashiach. So therefore I'm going to assemble you to come to war. Of course that war is intended for revenge. Hashem has a long cheshbon, has a long accounting and reckoning with them for all that they've done in the past. It's all going to come to a boil. It's all, of course, going to be reckoned with. And also to prove to them that all along this is what your intention was all. You haven't changed. The names have changed, but not the motives. So whenever that happens, of course there will be a big Kiddush Hashem. As the Navi says, Vidgadilti, Vidkadishti, I will be sanctified. God's name will be sanctified at that time. But there's something else. This is a very funny pasuk. The next pasuk, you rarely see anything like that. It says, whenever that will take place, when Mashiach comes, that they all assemble, and they all want to try once again to go against Hashem and His Mashiach, Yoshev Bashamayim Yishak, the one who sits in the heavens, He will mock them. He will laugh. God laughs. It's a very interesting pasuk. But if you look at it, I haven't seen anybody talk about this. Why does it say here Yitzchak with a sin and not with a tzaddik? Usually Yitzchak that's how it's written. Yud tzaddik het chuf. Yitzchak. Like the name Yitzchak. Here it's written Yitzchak with a sin. Even though you can claim grammatically they're interchangeable, and they are to an extent. What I would like to suggest, perhaps, is the reason why there is a play of words here, or there is a change of letter here, is to insinuate, as a remez, that what is going to happen in the end will be a mishak. HaKadosh Baruch Hu mesachek bahem, mehatel bahem. He will mock them. Not that Hashem laughs. Whenever you see the word Yitzchak, it means tzchok, laughs. Hashem doesn't laugh. Hashem is not a human being to laugh. Hashem's laughter here is that He will mock them, that He will make fun of them, that He will prove it to them. You're silly. You're going against me. Yoshev b'shamayim Yitzchak Adonai yil'ag lamo. He will basically make fun of them. Why make fun of them? Come on, didn't you learn from the past? Nebuchadnezzar tried this. Sanherib tried this. The Romans tried. All the guys that came before, they all tried it, they didn't succeed. Yeah, momentarily they destroyed my building there, the structure. They caused a lot of pain and suffering. But all that they intended to do, they were not successful. They're no longer around. You think you're better than them just because you have atomic bombs? Just because you have cruise missils, destroyers, aircraft carriers, and submarines? Yeah. All of that will not help you. And there is a midrash actually that they will come with all their ships and they will all drown. According to one interpretation, that one of the events of Milchemet Gog uMagog will involve a tremendous amount of armament that will not help them at all. Not a great deal actually. The big part of that last battle will be fought from Shamayim, because Hashem will prove it to them that it's not the Israeli pilots who are smarter or better. It's not their tanks, it's not the Merkava, it's not the arrow missiles. It's Yoshev b'shamayim Yitzchak, the one that sits above in the heavens. He will conduct the war, and he will play with you. To him it will be like a game. So it's not so much the laughter, it's that he will play, he will make fun of them. Well, what do you think you're doing? And what will happen to them? Az yidaber elemo be'apo ubeharno yevahalemo. Then he will speak to them in his anger, and in his anger or his ire, he will frighten them. So basically at that point they will be frightened. They will begin to see that this is not a natural, normal war like all the other wars and battles. They will hopefully be convinced and realize once and for all that Hashem is the king, that He's in charge. But this will come about through, of course, their downfall. They will suffer through the anger of Hashem. This is how He will speak to them. What's interesting about this pasuk is that right after all this anger and destruction, David HaMelech says, "Vani nasachti malki al Tzion harkochi." He begins to speak about Mashiach. He begins to speak about a king. Even though he's referring a little bit about himself too, and I'll explain that in a moment. The fact that these two pesukim are close to each other, perhaps I want to add, they relate to an important point, that the coming of Mashiach is immediate to this af and haron, to this anger and destruction that will come on the nations of the world. In other words, one will follow the other. The Malki, the king that will be anointed, the Melech HaMashiach, will arrive at that point. They will pretty much be together. Then he goes on to explain kings, anointment of king. Vani nasachti malki al Tzion harkochi, and I will anoint my king on Tzion, my holy mountain. I will appoint. What does David HaMelech say? It's not me, it's not the Jewish people who asked for it, it's coming from Hashem. Any time, not only in the Jew, amongst the Jews, but even amongst the nations of the world, if a king is appointed a king, it's Hashem who pretty much wishes him to be king. It's not necessarily the process, the system, they voted for him as for president. No, even though it, of course, is by vote sometimes it's not by vote, but even if it's by vote, and it appears to be a democratic process, Vanina Sachti Malki. Right? Hashem is the one that appoints a king. And when we learned Mishlei, we covered another important idea, is that even though a king makes a decree, don't ever think that the king has complete free will. Ultimately, Lev Melachim Vesarim B'yad Hashem, the hearts of kings is in the hands of God. He manipulates them according to His wishes. Otherwise, God forbid, the Russians would have perhaps already launched nuclear missiles a long time ago, during the Cold War era. Hashem says, no, I make that decision, not you. Even though you have all the power, press the button. I won't let you do that. I won't let you to destroy my world. The king apparently appears to have all this power, but no. Hashem says, because you are responsible for the fate of so many people, you're in charge. over the whole nation? You think Obama has the power to do anything he wants? No. First of all, he doesn't have the power as it is because he's tied to Congress. The President of the United States, as much power that he appears to have, is tied. His hands are tied somewhat between the House and the Senate. He can't make any law he wants. He can't even veto any law he wants. If there's a 2/3 against him, they can override his veto. So he can do certain things. He definitely sets the tone in this country, but ultimately it's up to Hashem what he wants. So that's number one over here. When David HaMelech says, Vani nasachti malki al Tzion HaKodshi, it means that HaKadosh Baruch Hu made the decision who will be king. In this case of the Jewish people, I wasn't chosen just because, I was good looking or whatever. It has nothing to do with that. It was Hashem chose him. And Hashem is the one that will anoint the Melech HaMashiach as well. Now comes what I think perhaps one of the most important pesukim of the Perek, and most people do not even realize it. The reason why most people don't realize it is, I think, because of the translation of two words here that appear very, very unusual. But those of you who know Arabic and Farsi will understand a little bit. David HaMelech says like this, Asapera al chok Adonai amar elai beni ata ani hayom yeliticha. The simple meaning of these words is, I want to tell to you, Asapera, el chok, and I'm basically committing to say this, to declare this. I'm obligating myself. I make it my duty. Asapera el chok. That's the way the commentaries explain the words el chok. Chok meaning law. So I want to relate to you, I want to tell you something, and I want to do it in a very, very strong way. I'm taking it upon myself, he says, Asapera el chok, that Hashem amar elai beni ata, that God has said, you are my son, you are my child, ani hayom yeliticha, I have today given birth to you. I have today begotten you. Wow. Again, this is one of those pesukim, even if you know Hebrew, you understand what he's saying is, Ma'u mechadesh bo. What exactly did he add over here? We finished with the goyim, or perhaps there's more to say about those goyim, the evil. What's this? In my humble opinion, I want to say that the word el chok is something completely different here. In Arabic and in Farsi to an extent, in Arabic we say el haq ma'ak. You are right. The truth is with you. Haqiqat. You understand that? Truth. Haq. Factual. This is the fact. El haq. This is the truth. Right? You familiar with that word? So perhaps David HaMelech is using this term, and it's simply because it has not been used in Lashon HaKodesh. It could be it was forgotten. It could be that this was an expression in the past, just that somehow nobody seemed to understand it that way. Because you can understand the word chok in various ways. I think David HaMelech is telling us a very powerful statement here. Asapera el chok. I want to tell you the truth. I want to tell you the fact as it is. And you know what that is? You want to know what the secret of the Jewish people is? This is what he's about to tell us. You want to know why they're still around? Asapera al chok. I'm going to tell you the facts the way they are, the truth. Hashem amar elai. God has told me, beni ata. Very simple. God has told the Jewish people, where? In the Torah. Banim atem Hashem Elokechem. You are my children. So we are His children. We're not just another nation in the world. And when did He say it to us? When He told us especially the words Hashem he'emircha hayom, Moshe Rabbeinu says. Hashem made you into a nation today. So the similar words that Moshe is using, David HaMelech is using. And we saw that when he started with the word Ashrei Ha'ish. So we said back then that Moshe said, Ashrecha Israel. You are my children. What about Ani hayom mileticha? I have given birth to you today. I have begotten you today. Moshe says in the name of Hashem to Am Yisrael before his death, right before they cross over the Jordan. Similar words. Hayom nihiyeta le'am. Today he has become a nation. Interesting. So I believe that these words are related to the words of Moshe Rabbeinu. And what David HaMelech is basically saying here is, this is the secret of the Jewish people. You want to know what's so special about them? Yes, even though they sinned, yes. Even though they misbehaved, yes. Even though they're in Galut, diaspora, kicked out of their homes, yes. And we all know that. But we are his children. And a father loves his children, no matter what. And we remain his children. A husband can divorce a wife. A man can divorce a woman. But that's not the relationship we have with Hashem, with God. We have a relationship of a father to son, and a father cannot and will not divorce his son. Will always be your son. Will always be your dad. So David HaMelech says, "Asaper al chok," I want to reveal to you the truth, the facts as they are. Hashem, Amar Elai, Beni ata, you are my son. You are my child. I think this is very, very special, very, very powerful. Telling us that ever since we received the Torah, we have become his children. You can also say, as many of the commentaries say, that a lot of what is being said in this chapter, David is saying about himself too. Hashem told me that I'm his son. In other words, Hashem told me I'm going to be the king. That's also possible. The commentaries therefore tell us that the fact that we are Hashem's children means that nothing in the world will ever be able to separate us from our Father in heaven. Nothing in the world. So here the Goyim is all related. They're trying to. What are they trying to do? Separate us from our Father in heaven. How? By not allowing us to keep the mitzvot. Now you understand why Poland is so against Shechita? Why is Germany all of a sudden against Brit Milah? Wow, what a coincidence. Interesting, no? Same thing happened in the past. Decrees against mitzvot. What kind of mitzvot? The important ones to us. Brit Milah especially. Right? Interesting, very interesting. From time to time, always decrees. Decrees in this country too about Brit Milah in New York as well. A slightly different kind of decree. They wanted to. All kinds of decrees. Where? In New York? Just now. About Metzitza. The step called Metzitzat Hadam in the Brit Milah. They want to prohibit that in New York. I think they even passed a law or something. It's still in the works. I don't know. All kinds of issues that they have, and you can say, well, they really mean for health reasons. But it's not that. Whenever you hear something, as we said it, I think, when I spoke about another topic, we mentioned that whenever you hear or read about a decree or a law, see who's the author of it. Once you know who the author is, you know what his intentions are. If the author of a decree is the Satan, his intentions are not good. Anything that's coming from the other side is not good. It cannot be good. Even though it's diluted for health reasons. Animal cruelty. That also sounds very nice. It's animal cruelty. There was a rabbi who once saw a German in the 1920s or early 30s kissing his dog in a very passionate way. The rabbi said, I guess in a prophetic way, a nation that can treat their dogs in such a way, one of these days they're going to butcher human beings. What that means is that if that kind of love you don't show an animal, that kind of love, to kiss it in a passionate way, it shows something twisted in their mind. These people will be capable, I think that's what he said, capable of butchering human beings. Because they got everything twisted. That love and passion you show to a human being, not to an animal. So a lot of people have certain ideas twisted completely. So it depends where it's coming from. It also could be, I wanted to add, this I didn't see anywhere either, that David HaMelech is a little bit sensitive to his new status. He's being chosen as king. You think people accepted him? You think everybody approved of him? In the very beginning, at least, people opposed or questioned because he's not purely Jewish. He's from root. And it was in the beginning, it was questionable whether it was okay to allow the converts from Moab, until a decision, of course, was rendered that what's prohibited is Moavi, not Moaviyah, the male, not the females of Moab. Right? So therefore, he's being a descendant of hers. It was a problem, an issue with the Yehus, with his lineage. So it could be that David is saying, don't make fun of my Yehus, of my lineage. In other words, Hashem is the one that chose me. And what's interesting is that David was chosen when he was still a young child, even though he did not become king till he was 30 years old. Right? He was chosen early on. When Shemuel was basically, told it would be this child of Yishai, not the other ones, the older ones, the nice-looking ones. No, it would be him. And even when Shaul was already king, it was David that killed Goliath, and it became obvious that he's going to be the next king. And that is why Shaul was upset. So David HaMelech is saying, it's not me. I didn't ask for this. Hashem made me king. Don't think about my Yehus too much, because I am Hashem's child just like any one of yours. Plus, Ani Hayom Leticha. You know what Ani Hayom Leticha also possibly means? I gave birth to you today. Rabbis tell us, Kol ha'oleh lemelucha, nimchalim lo avonotav. Whoever becomes king, they forgive him his sins. Whoever converts, they forgive him his sins. He's like a child that was just recently born. So a Baal Teshuvah, person that, or even one who gets married, by the way. See, it pays to get married. You're forgiven your sins. It's like you were just born. You start a new chapter in your life. Hashem says, I now forgive you your past, because now you have the strength. Hopefully, if you're married your real soulmate, now together with your wife, you have the strength to be able to do battle with the Yetzer Hara. When you are a single man, when you're single, you can't always win. It's very difficult to win against the Yetzer Hara when you're single. But when you're married, you have double beracha, as long as you marry the right person who will go along with you and will think like you and will cooperate with you, obviously, then your chances for success are better. So that is why Hashem says, I forgive you your sins on the day of the chuppah. You are like a newborn person. Yes?
Rabbi, wasn't there also a dispute between some of Yishai's other sons and David? That David was from another mother, and they didn't really accept him.
That was another thing.
They thought he was
illegitimate, yeah, but it wasn't the case. It wasn't the case.
So could he also be talking about that?
Yes, you're right, 100% right, very good. It could also be talking about that, but that's another protest.
Yeah.
There were various camps.
He says, I'm a stranger
protesting.
from my brother.
Yeah, there were various camps that were protesting. But eventually with him, they got over it. I think they got over it. I believe so. But with then you had all the politics. Politics goes on forever. So David HaMelech had to contend with a lot of enemies, not just the non-Jewish ones. He had, of course, the Jewish ones too, and his own family. So here you have an individual who went through a lot. And by the way, we've said it last time that a lot of what he's telling us is reflecting what the Jewish people will go through in history. In other words, what he went through, a lot of people go through. That is why we read Tehilim. It has become part of our tradition because it encompasses all the potential tzarot, all the potential problems that people may have with neighbors, with enemies, with all kinds of issues in life. So David HaMelech says, I didn't choose to become king. Hashem told me that I am his son. Then he goes on to say, She'al mimeni v'tena goim nachalatecha v'chuzatecha avsei haaretz. Ask of me, and I will give you many nations to inherit. V'chuzatecha avsei haaretz. And your reach will be to the ends of the world. The point of this pasuk is ask, pray, Before you go to war, don't trust in your own strength. Ask of me. Pray to me. That's what Hashem says. You're going to be going to war. Unfortunately, that's part of life sometimes. So, She'al Mimeni, if you pray to me, you look up to me, you rely on me, I will give you the Goim Nachalatecha, that you will be able to take over those nations and defeat them. And your reach will be to the edges of the earth. To the edges of the earth? Who needs that? That is already talking about Mashiach. Achuzatecha se aretz. When Mashiach comes, he will have control. He will have influence all over the world. Otherwise, why does he say Achuzatecha se aretz, to the edges of the world? Obviously, he's talking about more than just his own wars and his own triumphs. He's talking about Mashiach too. That this is what will be. He will control the world. Pray. Pray to Hashem before you go out and do war. The next pasuk is very interesting. He says, how will you fight the war? Teroim b'shevet barzel kichli yotzer tenapetzem. Now here, this is not really for us to do. Teroim b'shevet barzel kichli yotzer tenapetzem is really talking about how Hashem will conduct himself. So this is our prayer. Hashem says, She'al mimeni, and we answer, Teroim, smash them. Teroim means smash them with a rod of iron, shevet barzel. And we're not done yet. Kichli yotzer tenapetzem, like earthenware, shatter them. Wow. What is an iron rod and what is earthenware? Don't think that these are just regular words just being thrown around, descriptive of complete defeat. No, there's a lot going on over here. There's a Zohar that speaks about the word teroim. You know what teroim? Why did David HaMelech choose here the word teroim? Remember, all of this is Beruach HaKodesh. He has divine inspiration. He's inspired to write what he's writing, and he's using the word teroim. There's so many other words you could have used. Teroim, doesn't that remind you of another word? Huh? Teruah. Teruah. The Zohar says, B'schut HaShofar, that we blow the shofar on Rosh Hashanah, which is coming soon, we should be able to cancel out all the accusations of the Satan. The Satan is the one that's accusing us. The Satan is the one that's giving us problems. He has many messengers, all kinds of armies. Teroim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, give it to them. How? With the teruah of our shofar, through our prayer, through our repentance. Use that. So you should smash them b'shevet barzel. Now here, I didn't see anybody talking about it. So I'm thinking, why is he choosing shevet barzel? What's so special about a rod made out of iron? Now, the simple meaning is it's strong, it's powerful, right? That's as far as everybody goes. But Baruch Hashem, I'm thinking, there must be something here. Teruim, Baruch Hashem, the Zohar tells us it's Lashon Teruah. Okay, there must be some merit to the shofar. You pray, you blow the shofar, B'ezrat Hashem, that will act in our defense. What's shevet barzel? It's very possible that here, it's funny, David HaMelech is asking for something very unusual to happen. The Torah says, don't use metal to build the altar, right? Lo tanif alav barzel. Barzel, metal, is a killer. Rabbis tell us metal was created to make swords out of it, to kill. You're building a mizbeach, don't use metal. Shlomo Melech, when he built the first Bet HaMikdash, the whole Bet HaMikdash, he didn't use metal. No metal was hurt, no hammers, no nails. You go to the Kota today, just square stones, how they chiseled it is incredible, how they brought it over is incredible. In the first Bet HaMikdash, they used a shamir, which was a special worm that cut through the stones in an incredible, miraculous way. No metal was used. So what's this metal here? See what I mean? We should use metal? Hashem, you should use metal? Hashem doesn't need metal. So what do you think it is? I was thinking, and I think there's something to it. Who uses metal? Who does the Torah say will use his sword? Esav. Al harbecha tihyeh. Right? He will use his sword. David HaMelech is asking Hashem, by the way, when you go after the enemy, let them fight amongst themselves. Does that sound familiar? Isn't that what's happening sometimes? And that's, according to one nevuah, when Mashiach comes, that's going to be. Teroim b'shevet barzel, let them fight each other, so we shouldn't have to fight and spill blood. We don't want to spill blood. We don't like war. We're forced into war. As David HaMelech later says, Ani shalom v'chi adaber hem ala milchama. I want peace. But they don't speak about peace. They want war. So Teroim b'shevet barzel, smash them through our merits, of course, cancel all the accusation, and perhaps have them fight it out with their swords. Kichli yotzer tenapetzem, and when you shatter them like earthenware. Why earthenware? Because once you shatter earthenware, you can't put the pieces back together. Otherwise, you smash them, they get back on their feet and they fight you again. No. It should be permanent. Right? So he says, Kichli yotzer tenapetzem, shatter them like earthenware. The last few pesukim of the perek, David HaMelech gives advice, and this is also interesting. He gives advice to the goyim. Ve'ata melachim haskilu hivaseru shoftei aretz. And now kings, leaders, be smart. Analyze properly the situation. Hivaseru shoftei aretz. Take rebuke. Hivaseru is melashon hochacha. It was learn. Chu musar. Take the musar. Learn from your failures. Learn from history. You shoftei aretz, the judges of the land. United Nations. Whoever it is. Judges, policemen. Learn. Learn not to start off with them, with the Jewish people. Learn from the mistakes that others have made. Learn that you cannot defeat them, that you cannot go and fight against God in religion. Learn. And there's so many examples, one after another. As soon as the United States president wanted to influence Israel to do something which is not 100% right, immediately you had Katrina, you had wildfires, you had all kinds of natural disasters. Immediately after, and I can give you a whole list of them. So it's not a coincidence. He says, therefore, askilo. Isn't that, it's not a coincidence. And what do you think happened? Some Christian preachers got up and said that. And they basically told him, don't say that. What you're saying is not right, or what you're saying is bad and evil. How dare you accuse us of all kinds of things? That it's because we did this, we did got this. But he's a man of truth, supposedly. You know, he sees it, and he couldn't hold himself back. And he's not. There was several of them who said the same thing. But the people that we mentioned before that said they don't want to hear these things. That it's because of homosexuality, because of prostitution, or because of idolatry, or because of all kinds of things, you know, that are going on. Oh no, it's not because of that. How dare he be disrespectful and look down at 10% of Americans or whatever. You know, that's what they said. How dare he say something like that? Because that's that camp. They don't want to hear about religion. They don't want to hear that God is upset. Even one of the Japanese ministers got up and said after the tsunami that this is a punishment from God. This must be a punishment from God, he says. And they were upset at him that he said that. How could you say that? It's incredible. People don't want to admit it even after they go through it. So that's what David HaMelech says here. Come on. Think about it. Analyze it. Hivaseru. Take rebuke from this. Learn from this. Shoftei aretz. And what should Am Yisrael do now? Perhaps he's turning direction to the Jewish people. Even though you could say this is applying to everyone, he's mostly talking to the Jews. Ivdu et Adonai b'yir'ah, Vegilu bir'ada. What we should do is serve God with fear and rejoice with trembling. This pasuk actually is commented about because there's two basic meanings here. One is Ibdut Hashem bi'irah. When we serve God, we have to be careful not to serve Him in a mechanical way, in a routine way. There's also Ibdut Hashem besimcha, with joy. Here he's talking about mainly the yirah, the fear. Because if you do so, the second part of this statement is the end result. If you do Ibdut Hashem bi'irah, there will come a time that you will rejoice bir'ada. You will rejoice when everything else ro'ed, when everything else is falling apart and trembling, you will be able to rejoice because you were protected and saved. So one interpretation of this pasuk is that if you serve God bi'irah, vegilu bir'ada, when there's a ra'ada in the world, an earthquake, a major catastrophe, you will be able to rejoice and be happy that you were saved. The other more classical interpretation of this pasuk is Ibdut Hashem bi'irah, vegilu bir'ada. When you rejoice, don't rejoice bekalut rosh, with levity of the mind, laughing, drunk, fireworks. That's not how we celebrate. We don't drink beer, and we don't get drunk. Vegilu bir'ada. Even when we celebrate, when we're happy, we do so with awe and reverence for God, with respect. So we're serious about it. I wanted to add perhaps one additional point, and this ties in, therefore, to what we just said before. I think very well. Well, otherwise, why is he saying it over here? Perhaps David HaMelech is telling this to us because when we see what will happen to the Goyim, we should learn from it ourselves. To serve Hashem bi'irah, so that we should not fall for their traps, not fall for their ways. Be God-fearing person, and therefore take life more seriously. And when you rejoice, when they do fall, be careful not to be happy for their downfall. Remember the other pasuk? When your enemy falls, don't rejoice. So that is why perhaps he's saying over here, Vegilu bir'ada, rejoice but with fear. In other words, with seriousness. Don't rejoice, good for you, it's coming to you. No, we don't do that. Yitamu chataim min haaretz, the pasuk says, v'lo chot'im. Let the sin cease to be, but not the sinners. We're not asking for sinners, for the human beings to cease to be. They're created in the image of God. We want their sinful ways to go away. So when evil is destroyed, it brings simcha to the world, not because human beings have lost their life, God forbid, but because there's less evil, and there's more room for goodness and for blessing to come down to this world. That's why we're happy. So Ibdut Hashem bi'irah, an emphasis is put here to remind us that this is the ikar in the world. When we see all kinds of wars, when we see all kinds of evil, you just focus on doing the right thing. Focus on serving Hashem. What else besides Ibdut Hashem bi'irah? There's something else. Nasheku bar pen yenaf v'tuvdu derech ki yiv'ar kimat apo asher kuchosemu. This is the last pasuk, a very complex kind of pasuk, because the words here are also not the usual words. Nasheku bar. What does that mean? Nasheku is a kiss. Nasheku also means to embrace, to connect. So what's bar? Bar means purity, and it also means tevuah. It also means grain. The simple understanding of Nasheku bar is David HaMelech is talking to the nations of the world, and to us, of course, too. Besides the fear of heaven, he says, be careful to embrace purity and honesty. Bar is therefore purity of one in one's conduct. As you will see the word being used from time to time called bar levav, a pure heart. So embrace purity, embrace honesty. Otherwise, God forbid, penye enough, Hashem will be upset. V'tovdu derech, and you will be lost. Ki yiv'ar kimat apo. It will be, all it will take is for Hashem to be upset for one brief moment, kimat, for a brief moment, and it's gone. There was, especially during times of trouble, especially during the time of Mashiach, who will be selected? Who will survive? Those who are pure, those who are clean, those who are honest and straight, those who are kind to each other. So Nasheku Bar, his advice for the whole world really. Be careful in the way you conduct yourself, that you're an honest person, that you're a pure heart. Otherwise, you will be lost. Ashreko Chosevo, fortunate will be the ones when Mashiach comes, when we see the truth come out. Fortunate will be the ones who Chosevo, that they trusted in him. Last but not least, the commentaries explain that you know what Nashkuban is all about. This is an interesting interpretation of this pasuk. That David HaMelech is telling the Goyim, you guys, you want to know how to protect yourself and how to stay out of trouble? Embrace the Jew. Be friends with the Jew. Don't be his enemy. If you help him, you will be blessed. If you hurt him, b'tovdu derech, you will not find your way. You will be lost. You will be misled. What happened after the Jews were expelled from Spain? Spain went down. Expelled from Portugal? Portugal went down. Who took them in? Turkey. Assalamu alaikum, ahlan wa sahlan, beti betak, please make yourself at home. He took them in very nice. Why? Because he knew that wherever the Jew is, avarecha varechecha, right? Those who bless you, I will bless. Those who take you in, wherever you are, you will be blessed. Somehow that king understood it. The guy from today in Turkey doesn't, right? But back then, there were kings who knew this. Nasheku bar, embrace him, be good to him. Bar here meaning from good grain. Why good grain? Because we are Bechir Hashem. We are the ones that Hashem has chosen. He has selected us from everyone else. So Nasheku bar, stick to that has been selected. That one who's pure, who Hashem wants. Otherwise, tovdu derech. You will lose your way. You won't know right from left. You won't do the right thing. To do that does not only mean to disappear. It means that your way will be lost. You will not be on the correct path. You will not succeed. Because unfortunately, it will happen. Hashem will be very upset if, God forbid, anybody hurts them. Fortunate, therefore, are the ones who trust in God. Just to finish up, as we've done in the first parak, as Bezat Hashem we will do for every chapter, this particular chapter is a segula, can help one who is in a stormy sea. So if you're taking a cruise, or if you're in the sea for some other reason, and it's storming, and there have been many, many cases of people almost drowning. This perek bet, the segula, the power of this chapter is for stormy seas. And if you look for the connection, it's lama rageshu goim. You know, the water is becoming stormy. There's some connection over here of the stormy seas and the protection of Hashem, of course. Hopefully, we should not have to come on to this, but you should know that every perek does have some segula, and this is the segula, the special power for this chapter to be said at such a time. The main idea behind the end of this chapter is that David HaMelech is telling us that even though we see the Goyim going after us, even though we see that they don't listen, even though we see that they don't pay attention to their own mistakes, there's nothing we can do except for, of course, pray to Hashem and serve Him with Be'irah and Ashreko Chosevo. That's all. So in some ways, it's a continuation to the chapter, the first chapter, where he's telling us, be careful not to be misled, because in the end, the Reshayim will be destroyed and the Tzaddikim will remain. So we're in the midst. And imagine if you are right now being expelled from Spain, if you are right now being asked to give your life somewhere. Chapter Bet can reinforce this. I mean, otherwise people had a very difficult time understanding what's going on. Why is Hashem allowing them to do this? Don't they understand that what they're doing is wrong? It's so not right of them. It's so evil. Yes, the answer is yes, it's evil. Evil exists. Evil is not compassionate. And Hashem allows it for the time being. Why do we have to go through it? All kinds of cheshbon reasons why we have to go through it and experience it. But don't lose your faith. Don't lose your hope. Ivdu Hashem b'yir'ah. Be very, very careful. And if you do so, Ashrei kol chosev, when Mashiach comes, you will be the one that will be saved. You will be the fortunate one. You will be able to count your blessings. You will be very, very happy that you did not lose Chas v'Shalom your emunah. Thank you.